The cameras were already rolling when they called him onto the factory floor. Bright studio lights, shiny corporate banners, a billion-dollar facility humming like a living machine behind him. And in the center of it all stood the old mechanic. Oil-stained hands, weathered jacket, silent eyes that had seen 30 years of machines breaking, rebuilding, and surviving. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just stood there as if he already knew what was coming. The CEO stepped forward for the live broadcast. Young, polished, expensive suit, perfect hair, a man who had never touched a wrench in his life but owned the factory in name. And he smiled for the cameras. Today, the CEO announced proudly, "We are modernizing this facility, removing outdated systems and outdated people." A nervous laugh echoed from the staff. Then his eyes landed on the mechanic, and the smile turned sharper. "You," he said, pointing directly at him, "represent the past. This company does not need the past anymore." The room went silent. The mechanic didn't react, but his fingers tightened slightly. That small movement, like a warning the world failed to notice. The CEO walked closer, letting the cameras capture every word. "This man is a symbol of resistance to progress," he said. "He refuses automation, refuses change. And today, we correct that." He turned to security. "Escort him out." Gasps echoed through the factory. Workers looked down. Nobody spoke. The mechanic finally lifted his eyes. Not angry, not desperate, just calm. Too calm, as if he had already seen the ending. Security stepped forward. One of the guards muttered, "Sir, please come with us." The mechanic nodded slowly. No resistance, no protest, just quiet acceptance. But as he walked past the control panels, something subtle happened. A technician noticed. A blinking red indicator flickered for half a second, then stabilized. No one else saw it, except the mechanic. And for the first time, something like regret crossed his face. Not for himself, but for what was about to happen. The factory was supposed to be unstoppable. Automated production lines. AI control de logistics. Self-regulating power systems. A showcase of modern engineering. But 3 hours after the mechanic left the building, everything stopped. At first, it was subtle. A conveyor belt froze mid-motion. Then another. Then entire sections of the plant went silent. Operators rushed to consoles. Warnings exploded across screens. Critical system failure. Primary grid offline. Backup systems unresponsive. Panic spread like fire. What's happening? We didn't touch anything. Why is nothing responding? Then came the worst message of all. Manual override required. Engineering authority locked. Silence fell, because only one person in the entire facility had that authority, and he had just been escorted out on live television. The CEO rushed back into the control room. Now off camera, his confidence gone. "This is impossible," he snapped. "Fix it. Now." Engineers were sweating. Fingers flying across keyboards. Nothing worked. "It's not a bug," one engineer whispered. "It's a lockout." "A what?" The engineer hesitated. "Sir, this system, it's not just automated." He swallowed. "It's designed with a secondary architecture, a manual fail-safe override structure." The CEO frowned. "So bypass it." The engineer shook his head. "We can't." A pause. Then the truth landed like a hammer. It was designed by him. The room went dead silent. Years earlier, before billion-dollar expansion, before corporate acquisition, before the CEO ever stepped foot in the building. The factory was small, dangerous, unstable, and constantly on the edge of collapse. Back then, the mechanic was not old. He was essential. He designed systems no one understood. Emergency redundancies, power reroutes, mechanical fail-safes hidden inside digital architecture. He never asked for credit. Only one thing. "If this place ever forgets how it works, I need a way to stop it from dying." They laughed at him then, called him paranoid, old-fashioned, replaceable. And now, the entire company was discovering what he had quietly built. A system that only responded to one authority signature. His. Lights flickered across the facility. Then emergency alarms activated. But even alarms began failing. One by one, subsystems shut down. Production halted. Cooling systems failed. Data networks froze. The factory was not breaking randomly. It was shutting itself down in sequence, like a machine returning to sleep on command. The CEO's voice cracked. Find him. Security cameras replayed his exit. Slow motion. The moment he walked out. No anger. No resistance. Only that same calm expression. Too calm. A guard whispered, he knew. The CEO slammed the table. Get him back. But there was a problem. The mechanic was already gone, and the system no longer accepted external commands. Only internal authorization. Only him. An engineer accessed a buried file, hidden deep inside the factory's architecture. A file no one had opened in years. Named simply, Origin Protocol. The engineer opened it. His face went pale. This isn't just a factory system. What is it? The CEO demanded. The engineer swallowed hard. It's a controlled shutdown network. For what purpose? The engineer looked up slowly. For protection. If leadership becomes unstable, the system must return to its original operator. The CEO froze. Original operator? The man you fired. The CEO ordered immediate external intervention. Technicians from outside firms arrived. Experts, consultants, emergency engineers. None of them could override the system. Every attempt triggered deeper shutdown layers. Like the factory was defending itself. Not against hackers, not against disaster, but against unauthorized control. Outside, workers gathered. Phones recording. Whispers spreading. The factory is dying. No, it's being shut down. But by who? 3 hours after he left, the mechanic was not at home. He was sitting quietly in a small diner across town, watching the news, the factory image flickering on a small screen. He sipped his coffee slowly. No ruse, no panique, just silence. A waitress noticed. You worked there, didn't you? He nodded. They just fired you. No, they removed the hands that kept it alive. Back at the factory, panic reached critical level. Power reserves dropping. Production contracts collapsing. Millions lost every minute. Investors calling. The CEO shouted, "Shut it down manually. We can't. It won't accept anyone else." The CEO's face twisted. Then realization hit him. Fear. Real fear. We need him back. The mechanic was brought back. Not by force. Not by security. But by necessity. As he walked toward the factory gates again, cameras were already rolling. The same cameras that watched him get humiliated. Workers lined the walls in silence. The CEO stood waiting. But now, he looked different. Smaller. Broken. The mechanic stopped in front of him. No words at first. Only silence. Then the CEO finally spoke. We need your help. A whisper. Not an order. Not a command. A plea. The mechanic looked at the dead factory behind him, then back at the man who fired him. And for a moment, nothing moved. He walked inside. No celebración. No aplausos. Only silence. He placed his hand on the main console. The system recognized him instantly. Access granted. For the first time in hours, a light turned green. Then another. Then another. Power system stabilized. Machines restarted. The factory slowly came back to life. Like a breathing giant awakening from a forced sleep. Workers watched in disbelief. He didn't rush. He didn't speak. He simply restored what he had built. When the system fully stabilized, he stepped back. The CEO approached carefully. We can compensate you, he said quickly. Name your price. The mechanic shook his head. No, you don't pay for trust. The mechanic turned toward the exit. But before leaving, he stopped. You didn't fire a worker today. You fired the reason this place stood upright. And then he walked out. The factory survived. But everything changed. The CEO was never the same again. And neither was the company. Because from that day forward, every system had a name attached to its foundation. And that name was the old mechanic they once called obsolete. Outside, the sun set over the silent town. And for the first time, he didn't feel invisible. He felt remembered, not for revenge, but for truth, for the quiet power of being the man who held everything together until they let him go. And discovered too late, he was the system itself,